Welcome to the Starfighter game and instructional video. This short video will provide you with an overview of the various features you will see throughout this demonstration and gameplay. This game is about moving a fighter around the screen, shooting projectiles at 20 various enemies. For anybody who has ever played Space Invaders or Galaga, this game is very similar and thus will provide you with a background and familiarity. There are 3 levels of gameplay, of which each level contains 20 enemies of 3 various types. What you'll find is that there are 4 rows of enemy, 5 enemies in each row, and that subsequently each of these 3 types of enemies in the 4 rows requires various hits in order to destroy as well as score values. Of the bottom 2 rows, these enemies only require a single hit, and each hit results in the destruction of the enemy and a point of 1 awarded to the player. The second from top row requires 2 hits to destroy, and each hit on the enemy awards the player 2 points. The player will find that as each hit is occurred on the second from top row, the enemy will undergo a color transformation from white to yellow. This will help the player identify how many additional hits are required to destroy it. The top row contains enemies which require 3 hits to destroy, and each hit awards the player 5 points. As each hit is occurred on the enemy will undergo a color transformation of white to yellow to red, again to help the player identify how many additional hits are required to destroy the top row enemy. In this game, players can also be awarded what are known as fire upgrades. On the top row, once one of these particular enemies is destroyed, and it is actually chosen at random, so the player needs to keep in mind that the fire upgrade does not occur at the same place for every time the game is played. Once one of the top enemies is destroyed, which contains the fire upgrade, an icon will appear in its place, either an A for auto fire or a D for double fire. This particular icon will start falling towards the bottom of the screen, and if the player moves their icon to collide or intersect with the falling upgrade, they will gain that upgrade for a duration of 10 seconds. If, however, they miss the upgrade and let it fall below the bottom of the screen, they will have lost it for that particular level, and upgrades are only awarded once per level. So something to keep in mind. If the player gains a double fire shot, they are allowed to fire a maximum of 3 double fire or double wide single fire shots for a duration of 10 seconds. If the player gains the auto fire, then as they hold down the trigger button, they're allowed to fire as many shots as they like for the 10-second duration. Once that 10-second duration has expired, the fire of the player will revert back to a single shot, of gain of which they can only fire 3 projectiles at any one time. Let's see an example of the game. So we'll move left, right, up, and down. The player can only move as far as this particular point, which is about a third of the way up the screen. So something to keep in mind. As we hit the enemies, we'll see that an explosion takes place and we gain points because these are one of the bottom 2 rows of enemies. The enemies will appear on the screen following a particular pattern. This is what's known as a transition pattern. There are 4 transition patterns throughout the game, of which for the first level there are 2, and in the second and subsequent levels there are a maximum of 4 transition patterns. So keep in mind that anytime you play the game, you might very well be seeing a different transition pattern. Now as we hit the second from top row, you'll see that the coloration is changing, denoting we've hit them once, but they require an additional hit to destroy. As we destroy the second from top row, we are awarded 2 points for each of their destruction. Now once all of the enemy rows have appeared on the screen, they're going to go through a different movement pattern, which you can see now as they move up and down, left to right. Furthermore, one of the particular enemies has been singled out to undergo what's called a buzz pattern, so it will try to destroy the player by moving towards them. There are 3 of these patterns in each of the subsequent levels, of which there is only 1 in the first level, 2 available on the second level, and 3 available on the third level. As the player is hit by projectiles, or furthermore collides with one of these enemies, the player loses lives. So anytime, regardless of whether or not the enemy is buzzing or the enemy is hit by one of the enemies in transition, they will undergo a loss of life. So now we've got the upgrade for the automatic fire, and we can see here that we can fire as many shots as we like for a 10-second duration. Once it's up, we revert to a single shot. Once we've destroyed all the enemies on the particular level, then we will be allowed to move to the next level. If, however, we lose all our lives, we'll go to the end of game, and I will show you that here in just a second. All enemies have been destroyed. Now, once that level is completed, you indicate here, or it indicates the level is completed and the time it took, and you move on to the next level. Now, because I only have one particular life left, if I hit one of these particular projectiles or enemies, the game is over. So once a game is over, then you'll return to this particular screen giving you the top 3 scores that have been achieved in this game. You'll see here the score as well as the date and time. Now, the game will only keep track of the top 3 scores, so if you score something that is too low, you will not see it reflected here in this screen. So if we exit, we return back to the instructional screen, and again we can start a game. The player can leave the game at any point in time that they like by clicking the exit button, which will return them back to the game over screen, and furthermore back to the instruction screen. This concludes our demonstration of the various game features that we'll see throughout the Starfighter game. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.